Welcome, bonjour, welcome to the Space Hub in Le Bourget today. My name is Jules Grancière from the European Space Agency, ESA, and I'm joined today for this special talk by Tony Toker-Nielsen, the Director of ESA for Space Transportation, and by Jérôme Breteau, who is in charge of future programs at ESA for space transportation as well. So we speak about the future, you've understood that, building the future of Europe's space transportation. How do we do that? And that's the topic of today's talk. Tony, it seems to me like you have a strategy 2040 it's called. 2040, that's in 15 years. So we know the tech world and we know that planning for 15 years in anything technology, it sounds like it's crazy. Now, within this world that is changing so rapidly and so fundamentally, isn't it a much more difficult thing to do for your area of space transportation?
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Jules. The world is changing. The context is changing. We have a geopolitical situation that means that we will probably have much more need for space and space infrastructure here in Europe. We need to be independent, and this will drive increase of the need for launch services. And it's not even about getting there, it's also what's happening in orbit. So we are talking about in-space operations. Jérôme will explain later on what we mean with this. If I have to drive these slides, sorry. So talking about the ESA strategy 2040, which has just been adopted by our council, there is an element of space transportation in there, of course. It's the goal 3, strengthen European autonomy and resilience. And the goal reads, secure, autonomous and competitive access to and mobility in space through new transportation systems, solutions and services. And here on this slide you can see that launch cost detect competitiveness, and that is also one of our goals. And we will have an increasing need, as I just explained, an increasing demand, and we will probably need reusable launchers the next 10-15 years in order to meet this increased launch service demand, and also to drive costs down, which will again boost the market and the need for services. So a so-called virtuous circle. So this slide describes what we mean by European autonomy, and also what is the demand. So European autonomy is an enabler for unrestricted space activities, addressing European citizens' economic, social and security needs. And the needs we see in the future is the classical Earth observation, satellite communication, navigation, space-based meteorology and climate research. And then there is what I talked about before, an increasing need for applications in security and defense, and also space operations in the context of security. And then we have space logistics, which is a little bit the same. In-orbit servicing, assembly of large infrastructures such as commercial space stations and in-orbit data centers, manufacturing, in-orbit manufacturing and debris removal. We also in Europe has to ask ourselves the question again, about human space transportation and human presence in LEO on the moon and beyond. And this is something that is happening everywhere else in the world, in the US, of course, in China, also in India. And the question must be asked again, shall Europe have human space transportation means to launch its own astronauts to orbit? And then, of course, we are doing a lot of scientific and robotic exploration of the solar system and the universe. Here is a video, and I think that's more to you, Jérôme.
Thank you, Tony. Good afternoon to everybody. It's a real pleasure. I will shortly comment the short video clip that you are seeing in front of you, which gives an illustration of what is for us the future space transportation vision we are preparing. So it's based on the concept of routine access to orbit using two-stage fully reusable launchers, using stage combustion engines, so with reusable first stages, as you can see here, which are, I would say now, rather classical picture, but the best is to come now. Because once we have recovered the first stage, this routine access, then the second stage will deploy the payload and be reused or can be refueled for further mission, so continuation of mission, or be reused either by re-entry or in orbit. And then, once the payload has been delivered in a hub, so in LEO, you see that a space tug, so an interoperable space transportation vehicle, will take over the payload and will bring it to its final destination. And you see here two aspects beyond the reusability in orbit is the flexibility, interoperability of this. When you want to reuse in orbit a space tug, you need to refuel it. And so we are presenting at the next ministerial a flagship program called Odyssey. You have a notional picture of what could be an Odyssey orbital propellant depot here, where we would refuel the space tug for further missions. You can also use this orbital propellant depot to deliver fuel and other gases and other liquids to potential customers. And you see this approach of having an end-to-end space transportation with access to space, transport in space, return from space based on routine access to LEO interoperable space transportation delivers the mission for all orbit and all payload. This is a scalable, dual, and efficient vision of future space transportation tailored for the European needs. If we want to implement this vision and prepare this vision at the horizon 2030 plus, flagship demonstration for Odyssey typically early inception date is around 2030 plus. You need to have a certain number of early activities that you see. You have some flavor of what is ongoing and what will propose at the next ministerial in terms of technology activities and flagship demonstrators. So you see that we have flagship demonstrators to prepare the engine you saw in the video clip, high thrust stage combustion propulsion, typically full flow, reusable stages, lower and upper stage with potential reuse in orbit of the upper stage, and in-space demonstrator for preparation of the orbital propellant depot, and also a complete end-to-end in-space transportation infrastructure serving orbital economy. And this is what you see with Odyssey, and we have a roadmap of demonstrator called InSpock. Beyond this, you have a kind of control tower to control all this system of systems. That's the space logistics approach that we are having. I will not detail, but you see that we are mastering and ensuring the coordination and the coherency of all these activities through our space logistics approach. And as foundational activities in terms of technology, we have a certain number of technology disruptors activities around. You see here some of them: propulsion, lightweight structures, avionics and GNC, interfaces and robotics. We have also new calls which are in the making, typically around reusability and sustainability, as well as further edition, so to speak, or further session of the technology disruptor that you see there. We have all this in a coherent approach that is proposed at the ministerial, and we have, for ease of readiness and easiness of understanding, organize them around 4 ventures, which are BEST, Thrust, First, and Odyssey. Thank you.
Thank you, Jérôme. So I've got many questions to ask after this presentation. I see refueling in space. That's all there is to talk about. Is there more?
If I may just finish on the promotional aspect of my speak, if you allow me.
Please, of course.
That will be very short. We are implementing a transformation globally in the space transportation sector around what we call the 3 Ps: product, players, and procurement. Product, you saw them. We are developing end-to-end space transportation. Players, we are increasing the industrial database. And procurement, we are shifting from an administration of a sector era to piloting an ecosystem. And I give you an indication that every 6 months we have now a rendezvous, and the next one will be the autumn session on the 29th of October to discuss and promote all these activities. Thank you, and sorry for having been a little bit long.
Absolutely not, absolutely not. What I would like to do is open the floor. Since I have many questions, but it's not...
There are more slides. What? I come back the slides now.
You have slides? Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll take some time to open the floor for questions after you show us your slides, Tony.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jules. There was a little bit more that we wanted to describe, but since time is running, I shall go very fast through this. It's slides that normally would be presented by Thilo Kranz, the ELC program manager. I will do it for him. And we have been, the last 45 years, been procuring launch services in direct negotiation for first Ariane and then Ariane and Vega. And we are now changing this. There's a paradigm shift in the European space transportation sector, where we are opening up for new private actors. There are many, Joseph told 12, that are aspiring to this European Launcher Challenge. And they are all working on micro launchers, and we want them to grow to be able to compete eventually in the next 10-15 years with Ariane 6, and hopefully with a heavy reusable launcher. So this is the end goal of what we are starting now with this European Launcher Challenge. I will not go into the details of all this. I'll just tell you what the European Launcher Challenge is. So we will award contracts for successful challengers for an amount of up to 150 million per challenger in 23 economic condition. And the contract will consist of 2 things. First, launch services. And here we will take out of the budget of the ELC budget for that particular challenger, 25% we will pay down out of this budget, and the remaining 75% will be paid by the ESA program or the other institutional program that is using this launch service. So that's the component A. The component B is a capacity upgrade demonstration. We want these launchers to grow, and by the way, they all have plans of growing, increasing their capacity. And we will support them in that, and this should be considered only as a first step, as I just explained. The ultimate goal is to be able to procure launch services in competition in all segments of launch services in European competition. So we expect that there will be private investment, 40%. We will, it will be a service type work order. We are not interfering in design or anything else, but we do put in some milestones in this contract with some go, no-go gates, so that if it is not advancing as it should, we can stop the contract. And the target time for the demonstration flight is 2028. I think that's it. And here this slide actually summarizes everything. Ariane 6 and Vega C is our guaranteed access to space, and it will be for foreseeable long future. And then we come on with the European Launcher Challenge launchers that hopefully will go. And we see all the infrastructure in space, transportation, logistics that Jérôme was talking about, and we also see Space Rider, which should soon come online. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Jérôme. So again, that's an exciting topic, that's exciting perspective, and this is why I wanted to leave some time for questions in the room. If somebody has a question, please raise your hand. Yes?
Hi, Peter Deselding, Space Intel Report. A couple of questions. First, in looking at your slides, there seems to be a lot of infrastructure there that could be not under the ESA launcher program, but under ESA's human and robotic exploration program. Was what you're showing just what you count to do inside the envelope for the launcher program, or does some of that stuff bleed over into the robotic and exploratory program? And the second question is, and it's not a very happy one, is there anything that you showed there on that same theme? I'm looking at the graphic, a very nifty thing between the Earth and Moon, that might have to be reconsidered given what NASA might do to Gateway and Artemis, because both those might be affected by, the thing you talk about might be affected by decisions made by NASA.
Thank you, Peter. Of course, this is interlinked with exploration. That's very clear. And we coordinate with our human and robotic exploration program. And they are very interested in our in-orbit fuel depot. And especially in the potential new context, nothing is confirmed, as you know, where we need more autonomy, where we would need, I have to be careful what I say, where we would need more European autonomy in space exploration. And so we were really working together on this closely.
So that answers your question about the NASA as well. Okay. Any other questions for Tony Tolkenissen and Jérôme Breteau about the future of space transportation?
It's an open bar, so I might as well drink. On the European Launcher Challenge, you've described how you're paying in milestones, events that companies must achieve, including a first launch by 2028, minimum private capital, a target, that sort of thing. Is there, in terms of the payment profile of those who are selected by the ministerial, I'm trying to figure out what is your maximum capital at risk. In other words, how much, say a company just collapses sometime in mid-2026, how much money will they have received they're not going to pay it back to you. So what kind of capital do you have at risk in case one or more of the candidates you choose can't go further because private investors dry up or some other reason?
Peter, I cannot answer that question precisely. Each case will be evaluated. They will each have their own private capital side of this thing. And then there will be the public support. And we will evaluate and establish payment plans according to their cash position. This means that it will be on a case-by-case basis. And of course, we are ready to lose our investment at any given point in time if they don't make it.
Thank you, Tony. Any other question from the floor? Well, if not, if you have many other questions that you don't dare to ask, let me tell you that in a few minutes we start on the ESA stand to speak more in detail about how all of this will be presented at the Ministerial Council in Bremen in November to the ministers in charge of space in Europe. You'll go more in detail for 1 hour about how this program is constructed and how it's going to be presented to the ministers in charge of space. So thank you so much, Tony. Thank you very much, Jérôme.